Welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, also the city manager of Cottonwood. I'm here today with Morgan Scott, who is our public safety manager, and we're going to talk about projects in Cottonwood and what you can expect to see in the near future. And certainly one of the projects that we've just recently finished is half of 12th Street, Morgan, and that seems like it came out pretty good and probably gives people a good kind of a record of what 12th Street used to look like with the north side and what it will look like with the completion of the south side. But we're getting ready to award the construction contract for the north side of that street. You know, what can people expect? When is it going to start? How long is it going to take? What are the challenges associated with that? Because I know there are challenges.
There will be a few, but we'll get through them. And like you said, the south half just finished up. It turned out really well. In fact, I was driving it the other night in the dark, and my wife commented on how nice it was. And the north half is going to look just that nice by the time we're done. Very similar in width and everything. Obviously, as you've seen on the north half, you've got a lot of ups and downs, lots of hills that are going to be difficult to deal with, especially when you're going through doing all the utility locations. The utility coordination on the north half is going to be significantly more work than the utility coordination on the south half. So that's going to be a little bit of an obstacle. Also, because we're doing such big cuts and fills, we're impacting people's property a little bit more, meaning we're having to reach out onto their property with cuts and fill slopes. So obviously, people are going to be impacted more. Now, the good news is there's less property owners. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a good relationship going with all the property owners so they know what's going on. They know the contractor. We'll ask the contractor to reach out to all of them. One of the more interesting parts of this project on the north end, we're dealing with some large commercial users, AutoZone and Wells Fargo. Fortunately, we've got a good relationship going with them so far, and we'll keep them in the loop. As you said, the council recently awarded that contract last week. We're sitting down with a pre-construction meeting with the contractor next week, Tuesday, in which case we'll start to lay out a schedule. We've got a few easements just left to clean up. We'll be doing that early Monday morning, get all those cleaned up, and we'll get moving forward with the 12th Street project. And
so what is the timing on this one?
This could very likely be a 6-month-long project because it's not just a road project. We're installing a brand new water line, a brand new sewer line. The gas line needs to move. All of the APS underground is going to move. So there's going to be a lot of underground work going on before you actually see the road being built. So it could likely be the end of June before we're paving. Well, obviously, we're hoping to get it done before then, but with all that coordination, it's going to be kind of interesting.
Now, I'm trying to remember, don't we have a reclaim line going in along 12th Street too? Did you mention that?
I hope I did. I don't know if I did or not. But yes, we do have a reclaim line. As you know, the city's developed a reclaimed loop throughout the city. So someday we can charge that loop and we can feed all the schools, we can feed the fairgrounds, we can feed all the parks with reclaimed water instead of potable water, part of the city's reuse program. This loop on 12th Street, or this leg on 12th Street will be a part of that loop. And every project we've done over the last couple of years, not every project that's part of that loop, we've put in a leg of this reclaim line. For instance, the last Mingus Avenue project from the Maverick area down to the schools, that had a reclaimed line in it. The next portion of Mingus Avenue will have a reclaimed line in. And yes, like you said, 12th Street from Fur to 89 will have a reclaimed water line.
So what can people expect in terms of traffic, access delays, those kind of things on 12th Street?
We'll go ahead and we'll publish the same public releases we did on the south half. We may end up closing that street to all but local traffic, similar to what we did on the south end. So for that several months, there's going to be detours that you're going to have to find another way around 12th Street. The fortunate thing about the north half is we've got 6th and we've got Main in order to get around the north half of 12th Street. That's the fortunate end of it. And obviously closing the road allows us to get the work done faster as opposed to only open up half at a time. Right. One of the concerns with keeping the road open is the major fill slopes. For instance, if we're going to have, we're bringing the road up quite a bit or down quite a bit in places. If we're going to have one lane down, basically you're going to be driving next to a very large hole. We had some concerns with that. So that's one of the reasons we're opting or we're considering keeping that road closed to all but local traffic.
And this really was a challenging project. For one, we had limited right-of-way, and we just had so many property owners along that street that it was really a challenge to get this done.
Yep, that's correct. In fact, The right-of-way is only 50 feet wide. It's an older right-of-way, an older subdivision. It was subdivided in the 70s, and it only gave us 50 feet of right-of-way. For a collector street on today's standards, we'd ask for 80 feet of right-of-way. So obviously trying to fit what normally fits in 80 feet into 50 feet has been, yes, a little bit of a challenge.
And probably when they platted it and they set aside the right-of-way, they probably weren't thinking that it was going to become the collector street that it really is. All the way out to the Verde Villages and that way. So
no, I don't think so. That's
yeah.
In fact, one of the property owners on 12th Street that we've been working with was the first homeowner to build a home on that 12th Street, and they were telling us the history of it. Now, it wasn't that long ago that was a dirt road. That obviously was a dead-end dirt road as opposed to the collector street that it is today.
So, and probably at the point where the Verde Villages started to develop, that road went all the way through, and
Yes.
they started using it.
And then you had the traffic signal go in at 89A. That obviously made it much easier to travel through and
Right.
keep making it easier and easier.
Right. Yep. So, anyway, be patient with us. I think that one will, you know, once it's done, everybody will go, wow, took a long time to get it done, but I'm sure glad it's done. It sure is you know, a nice street to use, so that'll be good. Now, you mentioned Mingus Avenue. That's a next really large project we have coming up. And talk about that. What does it include? What are some of the challenges you're going to be facing there?
Sure. Mingus Avenue, as you know, is actually our busiest city street. We've got over 10,000 cars a day traveling down Mingus Avenue, which is actually more than Main Street, surprisingly. Ever since the Mingus extension went through, it's now our busiest street. And this is Mingus Avenue by the post office, by the schools, by the hospital, by the county courthouse, by the city courthouse. Obviously, you've got a lot of users, a lot of generators, the new rec center, a lot of traffic generators along that road. So that's probably going to be the biggest obstacle during construction, is working with all that traffic. Fortunately, it's 3 lanes, so there's plenty of room to detour people around in order to keep the road open, keep people able to get where they need to go, even if it's a little bit slower. And this is Mingus Avenue from Willard, near the Clemenceau School District, to 10th Street, near the Casa del Sol, I believe, apartment complexes or condominiums. So it's not right now all the way to Main. That'll be a future project in future years. As far as what people can expect, it'll look very similar when we're done to the Mingus Avenue that we just completed from Maverick to the school district. So 2 lanes in each direction, a center turn lane, bike lanes, sidewalk. We're going to try to go with 6-foot sidewalks in all locations. Might make some exceptions to that if there's an existing 5-foot sidewalk that's in great shape and we can save a lot of money. But we'll look at that along the design. And a great opportunity to find out what we're doing is next Wednesday evening, Wednesday, February 11th at 5 p.m., Cottonwood Rec Center. And we're going to have an open house in which we're going to invite the public to come out and give us their input. What are your concerns? What are your thoughts? What's everything you need to know. That'll be a great opportunity. We'll have plans rolled out, and these are conceptual plans, maybe 15%, so very conceptual, because we want to get everyone's input. But we'll even roll out plans so that people can write on those plans and say, hey, you need to look at this, or here's a concern. One of the biggest concerns, I'm sure, is the intersection of 6th and Mingus.
Right, I was just going to bring that up.
Yes, that's when we built the roundabout at Willard and Mingus, everyone said, well, not everyone said they'd liked it, but they said one of their biggest concerns is what impact will that roundabout have on the next intersection at 6th and Mingus? Right. And as many people know, backs up a lot of traffic. It's a major traffic concern. So we're having our consultant look at least 4 different options, one of which being a traffic signal. That's probably unlikely at this time, but at a minimum what we will do is install all the underground conduit in case a traffic signal needs to be put in the near future. They'll look at other things like moving crosswalks away from the intersection, which will actually benefit a lot of people. If we move a crosswalk, say, closer to Mickelson Parkway, it'll benefit the rec center and Garrison Park and the new teen center and the library, and getting students and pedestrians back and forth. Moving pedestrians away from that intersection also makes it easier for traffic to get through, safer and faster, more efficient. So we're looking at a few different options. There's a possibility we may add a right turn only on 6th. So again, getting more traffic moved through there faster. And we're looking at several options there.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that if you have a business on Mingus Avenue, or you live on Mingus Avenue, or you use Mingus Avenue, you know, come on out. Again, February 11th. What time was that again?
5 p.m. at the rec center.
5 p.m. at the Recreation Center. We'll have the designers there. We'll have city staff there to kind of get input from everybody to make sure they feel like they you know, are going to be able to make this work for them too, because we know it certainly is difficult when we're doing these construction processes for those people that live or do business or commute on those roadways. It makes it a little challenging.
Yeah, especially during construction.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and take our first break and come back and join us, and we'll talk about a few more projects that are coming up.
At Gettle's High Desert Mechanical, rather than do lots of things, we focus on doing one thing right. We serve climate-challenged people. Gettle's starts with a free system evaluation to identify the best AC and heating equipment for your home or business. Professional installation, warranties, and service after the sale. If you're climate-challenged, then we're the right choice. Gettle's High Desert Mechanical, the name to trust.
Headaches and back pain are two of the top reasons people choose Mosing Chiropractic. Dr. Mosing also treats symptoms of numbness and tingling, as well as those injured in auto or work accidents. Dr. Mosing uses gentle chiropractic techniques, as well as electric muscle stim and cold laser therapies. Call Dr. Mosing today at 634-0733. No spine left behind at Mosing Chiropractic.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, and I'm here today with Morgan Scott, who's our Manager of Public Works, talking about various projects that are going on in the city or about to begin. And we were talking about the replacement of Mingus Avenue between Willard and 10th Street, and shortly after that we hope to do from 10th Street to Main Street. So we'll have essentially a completely new street from 89A all the way up to 89A.
Yes.
You know, one of the things you mentioned just briefly during the break about utilities, and I know there's been some discussion about undergrounding, you know, utilities, APS in particular. How's that going? Is that, you think that's likely to happen, or?
Oh, it definitely can happen. Where it's at right now, in fact, we just cut a purchase order to have APS go ahead and move forward with the design to underground. And what APS will do is they'll, at a certain point in the design, they'll have a very good cost estimate, and they'll bring that back to the city, and we'll bring that to the city council and say, this is what it's going to cost. Are you sure you want to do this? In which case we can implement in the design and move forward with it. We just want to make sure that we understand everything that's going to cost first.
And certainly, that's everybody's preference is to try and get them underground. I think even APS likes to put their equipment underground because the maintenance and safety of it is a lot better, but it can be expensive when you start undergrounding stuff.
Yes.
So we'll have to see how that goes. It also, you know, makes a much nicer kind of a skyline to where you're not looking at utility poles. So we'll do Willard to 10th Street, and then how quickly after that would you anticipate 10th Street to Main Street?
But the goal is to be ready to go as soon as Willard to 10th is complete, have plans ready to go. Now someone might ask, why is the city separating? Why are we not doing this all at the same time?
Good question.
And it's a great question. The reason is we have federal money. We have about $845,000 in federal money to build Willard to 10th. And we did consider, hey, why don't we just go ahead at the same time and build it all the way out to Main, which is a great idea. The problem is anytime you're going to use some federal money on something, that comes with all sorts of strings attached. You have to get environmental studies done. You have to do certified payroll. You have to do Davis-Bacon wages, and things get much, much more expensive. So we said, why don't we just use the federal money on the federal project, and we'll go ahead and use local money on the rest of it later. Otherwise, the rest of the project would cost a lot more money. So that's why we're breaking it up. So for people who have a hard time understanding why is the city breaking up these two projects, why not get them all done at once, that's the thought process behind it.
You know, and certainly we've talked about this in the past in terms of federal dollars. It essentially almost costs 30% more to when you do a project that's funded by federal dollars because of all the requirements that are associated with it. So where we can split projects out and we don't have to meet those federal guidelines, I mean, the project gets done just as nicely. It's just cheaper to get it done.
Yeah.
So, and again, just quickly mention the February 11th meeting, 5 o'clock, the Rec Center. If you want to come comment on just the conceptual design for Mingus Avenue, we'd love to have it, have your input. Next projects, what's coming up after that?
A few others that the public might be really interested in. In fact, today, I believe, they are interviewing consultants to look at the HVAC for the Civic Center.
That's right.
Which is, that's a beautiful old building. It's great to see it getting revamped and put back to good use. So all that's going to do is look at the HVAC. It's not a total remodel of the building, though we are looking at grants to get that whole building rebuilt here in the near future.
Yeah,
Not
essentially,
remodel.
This will be nice because we'll be able to take those swamp coolers out of the windows, replace the windows back to their original state. And certainly air conditioning is a lot easier on the interior than the kind of wet, swampy swamp coolers. So this will be nice. And as you indicated, we're going through a process to get a federal grant to do a rehab of that building a little bit more. But we really want to restore it to what it originally looked like as much as possible. And so that's an exciting project, without a doubt. Glad you brought that one up. What else is coming up? I know
another one the public might be really interested in is the restrooms at the kids park near the fairgrounds, the revamping of the restrooms at Garrison Park, and both the Riverfront Little League and softball hubs. That was put on the budget this year. We may slide that back slightly just because city revenues are not coming in like they would. So that could possibly be pushed into next fiscal year, and we'll keep an eye on it. The good news is the RFQ is ready to go. We'll probably submit an RFQ to have a contractor come in. We'll do a design build all at once and get those projects built.
And again, RFQ's a request for qualifications.
Yes,
and what we do is we get a qualified contractor, architect, whatever, and they not only design it, they build it with the hope of being able to keep the cost of that project as low as we can get it. So that's an exciting project. And again, restrooms at Kids Park. I think we're looking at a new restroom at Garrison. We'll tear down the old one, build a new one because the old one is really shot. And then we'll be looking at rehabbing the softball restrooms down at Riverfront Park. The Little Leagues are actually in pretty good shape.
Yes, they are.
And we appreciate people helping us take care of those because sometimes they get maliciously abused. And we have to go in, clean them up, repair things. And, it's really sad to see when nice city, amenities like that are taken for granted and kind of destroyed, probably mostly by some of our young people in the city. So help us out, keep that from happening. Let's see, what else is going on?
Another project that I know I've gotten a few ideas from the public about is the sidewalk on Cottonwood Street right near Safeway.
Right.
So this is, let's call that west of Main Street. So right in front of the Safeway food complex. And actually, it was Bruce Morrow with our transit department who was able to acquire the grant money to build that sidewalk. We've got about $175,000. We'll be setting up a meeting with ADOT and all the different grant agencies in order to move forward with that. The design's nearly complete. We designed that in-house in order to save some money. That was one of Cottonwood. It was on their top 5 priority list for the city council, but it wasn't on the top list. So it was one of the ones that we were trying to get moved forward, but we didn't have the money for. So this is great that Bruce was able to find that grant money so we can slide that in and get Cottonwood Street complete. We do have some time. It'll probably be late this fiscal year to early next fiscal year, just because we do have to move forward with the environmental and the Davis-Bacon and everything else because of this federal money. But it's great to see that one get going.
You know, and that's certainly one of our challenges, and I know you brought a list of sidewalk projects we'd like to get done throughout the city, and I think your estimate was based on our ability to only budget about $80,000 a year for sidewalk replacement or you know, putting in new sidewalks. It'd take us about 28 years to exhaust the list. So certainly that's something we're going to have to look at, and any chance we can get a grant, that certainly helps. But it's concerning, and we certainly need more sidewalks, and some of our older sidewalks certainly need to be repaired as well.
Yes, and that's important to notice that that priority list was just new sidewalks. That wasn't taking care of some of our existing infrastructure. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, something we're going to have to look at, and certainly the city council is very concerned about, because both sidewalks and streets have been a real priority, but for our city council. But you know, we're looking at what revenues are available, and the fact that we haven't completely recovered from the recession yet makes that a little bit challenging. So, any other projects out there that you want to talk about?
Let's see. This isn't really a project, but it'll impact the public, and that is, this came before council quite a few months ago, and we're just now getting it all cleaned up, and that is the speed limit on Broadway between Old Town Cottonwood and Old Town Clarkdale. As you've noticed, over the last 5 to 10 years, we've had several new developments out there, the Gray Fox subdivision on the greens. So what used to be a wide open road, highway, in fact it was US 89A, it was a beautiful historic road, still a beautiful road, but now has a lot more traffic on it, a lot more turning movements. So it was actually the citizens of Gray Fox that came to the city and said, hey, can we look at bumping the speed limit down from 50 miles an hour to 35 miles an hour? Because we're so, and Cottonwood City Council fully agreed with that. Our police department supported it. So we wanted to bump it to 35 to the north city limits. But in order to do that, we wanted to coordinate with Clarkdale, because we didn't want to just go change some speed limit signs and not notify Clarkdale. Clarkdale, in the meantime, said they actually wanted to change their speed limit in their section from 50 to 45. So that's what all the coordination's been going on. Make sure all the police departments are okay with it. All the public works departments are going to take care of everything. In fact, next Tuesday morning, the public works superintendent for Clarkdale and our own foreman for our maintenance crews will be meeting out there to make sure all the signposts, everything are ready to go. In which case, after that, we'll notify both our police departments of a date and time. We'll get our message boards up in order to let all the traveling public know there's going to be a change in speed limit. And we'll pick a date, and we'll get a press release out and just let everyone know this is the date that speed limits are changing.
Yeah, and I think there might have been some confusion that people were thinking that, you know, the entire road between Cottonwood and Clarkdale was going to be changed to 35 miles an hour, and that's not the case. It's just as you come into Cottonwood, we slow it from 45 to 35 and then 25, and there are actually regulations at how much speed you can reduce and in what distance, and so that was the issue that revolved around it. But again, as Morgan said, that roadway's getting busier and makes it a little more difficult and hazardous for people to get out onto the roadway who live off of it, and so it was an important safety issue. But and I think everybody always worries that the police are going to be out there immediately giving people citations, and that certainly is not the case. They'll do a lot of warning and just presence to get people to look at the signs, slow down, but we just want to make sure you're aware of that change so that you can adjust accordingly. I think the only other project that I can think of is the Riverfront Water Reclamation Plant. We are ready to go on that. We're waiting for a final guaranteed maximum price for that project, and we've awarded the contract to a contractor who's ready to go to work, and we just need to get it before the council and get that approved. But again, that's it's something that is going to provide a lot of reclaimed water to the fields down at Riverfront Park, hopefully even over to Dead Horse State Park, to our cemetery. There's a lot of opportunity to stop using river water to do the irrigation down there and use some of our reclaimed water to make that happen. And we're also going to be looking at doing some recharge associated with that plant, and it's going to be a real environmental boost for our use of water down there. So we're looking forward to that as well. How about, one of the questions I get a lot, related to streets is 6th Street. I know that's one we need to go to work on as well. Have you guys had a chance to look at that? Any plans on that one at this point?
Yes, in fact, we've been planning that in the budget. When we do our budget, as you know, Doug, we actually plan 5 years out. And for FY 2016 and 2017, we had planned to rebuild 6th Street. Now, this is 6th Street from 89A to Mingus. We'd like to, as you can see, there's a low water crossing. There's several other places that tears up the asphalt pretty bad. So we'd like to do a complete redesign, reconstruct on that road, which is not going to be inexpensive, but definitely is needed. And what's great is you're tying into several other roads. Before 6th Street was, okay, it was actually, compared to some of our roads, it was one of our better roads. Now we've got a brand new 12th Street, we've got a brand new Mingus Avenue, we've got a brand new Willard. Like you said, Mingus is going to be a brand new road from 89A to 89A all the way up to the Mesquite Hill subdivision on the west side of town. So now we're still looking at 6th Street as that's kind of our next top priority.
Yeah. And I know we've talked to, we've looked at getting money from the flood control district for that one low water crossing that's on the south side of 89A on 6th Street. And hopefully in the near future we can do that too, because obviously anytime there's a good rain, we end up having to shut that street off because it's too hazardous to go through that low water crossing.
Yep. And speaking of flood control, we actually do have a grant from the Pike County Flood Control District in order to do a citywide drainage study right now, which will not only look at that project, but several other projects around town. And they're not really doing designs right now, but what they're doing is, okay, what kind of flows are we looking at? What is it possibly going to cost? And they'll give us priorities. This will really help not only city staff to prioritize projects and to design projects, but it'll help locals, just the citizens. For instance, if you're designing your culvert, it'll design the flow lines along a road. Every single wash running through your property, it's going to know. So that'll help out our citizens a lot to know all that information.
Yeah, and that'll be a great project. So our public works staff is certainly busy, and these are just a few of the projects that they have going on. We have many projects that we're continually working on to try and improve the city or maintain infrastructure that we've put in place. And but anyway, if you're ever interested in getting more information, certainly call City Hall, check our website. We always have a lot of information on the website. But come on down and see us. We'd be glad to show you around and explain what's going on. Thanks for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you again on Inside Cottonwood.